welcome you. I'm going to introduce Matthew. I see a lot of faces I know, which is freaking awesome. I see some faces I don't know, which is freaking awesome. And once again, my name is Carrie. I'm Dr. Matthew's wife, and I'm super excited to welcome you guys to this event. One of the things we like to do in our office is make sure that people are educated. And in the times that we are in, with the fear and the uncertainty, one of the things that we find the most important and what we're really passionate about is building health. Because the narrative in our culture is, how do we stay not sick, right? So we've heard that for the last year. How do we avoid these things? And I think that's only a very small part of the conversation. Because no one's talking about, how do we build health? How do we become more resilient? How do we become healthier so we can actually engage in a world that's super uncertain? And that's what we're here to do, and that's what we're here to talk about. And it is our greatest pleasure. It's what we are really passionate about. And I know for some of you in the audience who have been in care, and this is a pat ourselves on the back and pat you on the back, is that we know that you're seeing results. You've seen results and you're feeling better. And better can mean a slew of things for different people. But if we can help you advance in your health, 1 step, 2 steps, 10 steps, we've succeeded. And kudos to you for showing up for your health and engaging with it. And kudos to all of you for showing up today. Because without you, there is no us. And we know that. So today, Matthew's going to talk to you about heart health and stress. And at the end, for those of you who aren't in care with us, we will make an offer for you. And if you don't want to come see us, we are completely fine with that. We can still be friends. And please know that you are more than welcome to come to our events and learn more and check out our Facebook page and check out our YouTube. Like, our job is to help you see options and outcomes beyond the commonly expected and beyond what the culture is telling you, because we know what is possible. So without further ado, Dr. Matthew Mancuso. Yay! And we do expect audience participation. For a little while, we like to be energetic and out there. Hello. Woo!
Well, hi. Hello, welcome, bienvenue. Thank you so much for taking this time on this Saturday, on this gorgeous sunny Saturday, to come out, learn some things, have some pizza, make some friends, and participate in this thing called life once more. It's an honor to be able to actually have these moments with you all. Quick reminder, how many of you remember back when we had the actual community wellness dinners going on at the Chatelaine back in the day? Yes. One of my greatest joys is to be able to sit down and share with people, whether it's sharing knowledge, sharing wisdom, sharing humor, or sharing food. See, when I grew up, my house was, looking at all of my different friends, it was the one place that many of them had their first home-cooked meal. We would invite in all of my friends, we'd take in the strays, and we would have just meals together. And so it's a joy to be able to have a meal, even if it's in an interesting environment like this movie theater, but to be able to share a meal and to share some wisdom and share some what I think is funny, whether or not you do, with all of you. My jokes may not be good, but they are abundant. Is that fair? All right. And as Carrie mentioned, this will be audience participation, meaning sometimes when you engage with things, you'll actually retain it more. So, if you notice there is a joke, you can laugh. If you notice, if I say, how many of you have had this kind of experience, please put up an arm if it's you. If you physically engage, you'll retain more. Whereas if you're determined not to learn anything, simply sit crouched like this, don't breathe, and put your arms across your chest like this. It'll actually mechanically turn off the part of your brain that can receive information. Cool? And then you'll get pizza eventually. So with that, anything worth sharing does have to come with a disclaimer in this modern era. Is that fair? So I'm going to give you my disclaimer. Warning. The following presentation is of a transformative nature and may challenge the way you experience your body, your mind, and your life. Are we still okay? Okay, cool. Exposure to what we're sharing tonight, which includes information on network spinal chiropractic care, can elicit outrage at what you've tolerated or accepted or settled for when it comes to your health and your life. It may also elicit vitality, clarity, joy, exuberance, excitement, and profound awakening. Are we still okay? Cool. Thus, knowing all of those things, that may therefore be harmful to the life you've been living. Because anything that involves actual healing will create change. See, everything I'm going to be sharing today about when it comes to the heart and stress and how they're completely connected and how that relates to this weird thing called a body and life is based on the fundamental assumption that there are two completely different directions you can go when it comes to healthcare. One is about management. And we know about management because it's what Carrie was mentioning before, and it's a dominant thing in our culture. I think of it as the doctrine of original sin when it comes to your health. Meaning, oh, you're a human, you have a body, it's inherently broken, stuff's going to go wrong, and you just need to manage it for the rest of your life. The more medications you collect, the more things you have to do to try to manage. Oh, I guess you're managing well. The direction we're going to be mentioning is more about this path called healing, which is about actually becoming more whole, which is becoming more alive, more vibrant, more vital, more energetic, more alive. And how these two directions, while are useful at different times, have completely different outcomes. And if you're simply seeking to manage, please never hire me because I will screw up your world. Because we will create change together. We will create progress together. We will help you actually be able to move forward to create the life you are here to live with the health that you were born to have, which will shake up things physically, emotionally, mentally, and the works. Is that fair?
Yes.
Ding! That is the ding of yes. So cool. Before I geek out on the information, who the heck am I? That is me. While you may see this adult form here, that is the me who is always running behind the scenes, somewhere between the age of 3 and 4. Now, I was born in this weird little place called Michigan. How many of you have heard of Michigan? Yup, that's the sound that usually goes with it. That's all right, because as a very young child, I then moved to Florida. How many of you have heard of Florida? Yes, doesn't get the same response. Although they are crazy down there. I know this because I'm one of them. I also graduated from Chiropractic College in 2002. Actually, no, I started 2002. Graduated 2005. I went to school in California. Anyone been to San Francisco before? Lovely city. From graduating in California, I then moved to Ireland for my first practice. Anyone been to Ireland? It's gray and rainy. It's true. A lot of sheep. Went from Ireland. It's also a beautiful place. Went from Ireland to Mallorca, Spain. From Mallorca back to Florida. Florida back to California. California up to Seattle, Washington. And then 2012, back when we had our last apocalypse that didn't happen. Anyone remember that one? So long ago, the Mayan calendar. Yeah, we moved here to Columbus and have been here ever since. It's been an awesome experience. Thank you. In addition to being in clinical practice, taking care of people, I'm also one of the international teaching staff to this particular branch of chiropractic that we're involved in. I have had the honor and the privilege of being able to serve by teaching throughout the United States, being able to actually facilitate healing retreats in Italy, and in 2020, I was supposed to finally teach in Australia and New Zealand. Yeah, didn't quite work out. However, the future still exists, which is lovely. So I'm looking forward to finally getting down there. Yes, I am. So I mentioned before there's different approaches when it comes to this thing called health. Also, even within my own profession, chiropractic, there are different directions to things. So when folks are like, why the heck is a chiropractor talking to me about heart health and stress? Isn't it supposed to be just about bones and stuff? No. There are two main wings within my profession, one of which is more musculoskeletal, bones, muscles. And their main job is to help create, as quickly as possible, the short-term relief of pain, reduction of tension, and increase of mobility. Awesome! Because, show of hands, how many of you have a body? If your hand's not up, I'm concerned about you. I may be hallucinating. I'd like to know you exist. Good. Yeah, they're great with that kind of thing. The other wing to our profession is what I'm involved with, which is, well, do bones ever move themselves? No. So how could a bone be a primary problem? What moves your bones? Muscles. Yes, muscles attached to bones help those move. Awesome. So why is it hard to get off the couch and go to the gym? Because you have muscles. Why don't they get up and exercise themselves? Because something else tells the muscles what to do, right? The muscles aren't the primary problem. What tells your muscles what to do? Say it loud and proud, people. You had the right answer.
Brain.
Yes! Your brain! The thing in your this thing. Brain. Super handy. Very useful. So our wing of the profession, the neurospinal wing of the chiropractic profession, actually adjusts the nerves and the brain in ways that change the muscle, change the bone, change the life. Now with that, this also taps into what we were mentioning before, and we'll just a little quick capsule summary. What we're sharing about heart health and stuff, when we're sharing about stress, when we're sharing about anything at all, we often think that the symptom itself is the problem. So we could be talking about high blood pressure, heart attack, we could be talking about anxiety, we can be talking about depression, and most of the ways we handle things are we find what the symptom is, and we see what makes the symptom go away and assume that just made us healthy. As an example, if someone has anxiety, and they drink a couple glasses of wine, and they are happy afterwards, did we correct the anxiety? No! But that's the approach we're using, isn't it? You don't feel good, you take this medicine, suddenly you feel awesome! Whether the medicine was a prescription or some cocaine, you're alive! Huh! Now again, there's a time and a place that this can be incredibly useful. If my arm has been cut off, and I need to get it sewn back on, do I want a painkiller in that moment?
Yes.
Yes! But how often are we treating the symptoms from our body as if it's that level of crisis? Ah, yeah, that's the thing. And then because of the way we treat it, how many of you have actually read the side effects on all those different medicines? If you haven't, get curious. Because so many times people show up in my office trying to deal with the symptoms that are the side effects of the various medications they're already on. I'm like, I can't fix that because these are things that have been chosen. So instead of looking at the symptom, how do we actually get to the cause? The developer of the work that I do, Dr. Donnie Epstein, I love this quote from him because I'm also a bit of a dog aficionado. I was raised by dogs. That's a longer conversation. But he says, when you step on a dog's tail, the bark comes out of the mouth. Trying to treat the bark will never get the foot off of the tail. Does this make sense? If you're driving down the road and your check engine light comes on, if you paint over the light, did you fix the problem? No. So with that, let's get down to brass tacks. Let's talk about the heart. How many of you have a heart? Yeah, of course you do, because if not, you'd be known as what?
Dead.
Dead. Right, and again, I have nothing against our zombie American friends. However, I have never taken care of one. Okay, the joke really was awful. You're right. No one should have that. That was just... Check it off the list. But when it comes to the heart, we all know that the heart is a major organ and also a major problem when it comes to our health. Yes or yes? Yeah. Yes. I mean, heart disease alone, we all know this. It's the leading cause of death in men, women, and people across most races in the United States. Yay, we're number one. Also, one person dies every 36 seconds from heart-related challenges. So do you think that's kind of a big deal? I mean, every 36 seconds. How many of you have started doing math about how long I've been talking and figured out, oh, wow, that's horrible? I mean, just, what is it? 650,000 Americans die every year from this. That's a lot of humans. And on top of that, it costs a lot of money as a society to deal with this, like in the hundreds of billions of dollars. 219 billion the last time they calculated this one, between 2014 to 2015. So it's kind of an issue. On top of that, there's a few things related to it, because we think heart disease, and so often we can just think heart attack, but there's multiple factors involved, right? How many of you know your blood pressure is involved with your heart? Cool. How about your heart rate is involved with that? How many of you realize that anxiety and a heart attack often have a similar symptom for a reason? They're connected. Yeah, it's kind of a thing. So coronary heart, blood flow as well. The blood vessels that feed your heart are also involved in that. The heart being able to receive proper nutrition through blood supply is a big thing. That alone, separate from what we mentioned before, it gets about, 1 out of every 15 Americans. 2 out of 10 deaths from that happen to people my age, less than 65. On top of that, our favorite thing here, heart attack. 800,000 Americans have a heart attack every year. Are we all fine with this? No, we shouldn't be. But it's important to recognize this is kind of a big deal. We also all know this already. We all already know that the heart has been an ongoing thing. We've kind of just assumed that's just how it is. It's normal. I wish we would take so many of the things we call normal and just throw that word out. Because normal is true to one's norm. It is true to the essence of what you were built to be. Average, common, that's different. Heart attacks are amazingly common. Heart disease is amazingly common, but it's not normal. It's a sign of some underlying things that we've all overlooked. And that's what I'm going to be sharing today. Not just the stuff you already know, like you should eat less salt and don't be a schmuck. There's more to it, I know. But what is it we don't know about the heart that's actually running behind the scenes? What is it that's truly going on here? A bigger piece. And this came out of, I had all these references to it, and the screen kind of cut them off. So if you're the sort who really, really wants those, email our office afterwards. Or just Google. Seriously. The stuff you don't know is something called heart rate variability. How many of you heard of heart rate variability? How many of you heard of it because of an exam in our office? Yeah. There's a reason we measure it, and it's not just because we get bored. Heart rate variability, and I quote, relates into the autonomic nerve system. What's the autonomic nerve system? It's the system that runs every part of your body. How many of you tell your liver what to do every moment consciously? No one's that level of control freak. How many tell your heart to beat every moment? No one's that level of control freak. There's a part of your nerve system that runs all of these. Why does this matter? I had this all highlighted in pretty colors, but we lost that here, so I'm going to just momentarily geek out on details with you. Autonomic functions, which is the stress system. It makes sure we can engage, and it makes sure we can relax. It can shift gears between these. Totally on, totally off. That function shows up, its health shows up in the variability, in the wiggle room on your heart rate. How many of you had the idea your heart's just supposed to be like a metronome and just be like boom, 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 boom? Yeah, when someone has a heart like a metronome, they're what's called dead within 2 hours. When there's no variability in your heart rate, when it has been perfectly managed to that place where it is constantly the same, someone is within 2 hours of a myocardial infarction or another form of way of dying from heart stuff. Because the heart is designed to be flexible. That rate is supposed to increase, decrease, flex. The pressure of how it's like pushing blood through you is supposed to go up, go down, flex. It's designed to be an adaptable organ in motion. Because, well, here's the thing. If you go from sitting to standing, everyone, just for a moment, unless you're holding a baby. The rest of you who aren't holding babies, exactly, stand up. Cool, congratulations. Your blood pressure just increased. Your heart rate just increased. You carrying the baby, it just did more so. In the act of standing up, your body had to increase your blood pressure to make sure blood could still keep getting up to your brain. How many of you have ever stood up and gotten fuzzy or dizzy? Yeah. That was a moment that your nerve system couldn't keep up and tell your heart to increase fast enough to get all the blood up to your brain to keep you balanced. Your heart rate and blood pressure should have gone up when you stood up. Now here's the thing. Sit down. As you settle into the chair, those things should then change again. There's the moment of activity and then the relaxation. And so then your heart doesn't have to work as hard to get the blood to your brain. The heart rate should go down, the blood pressure should go down. Does this make sense? Yes. This is variability. This is the measurement that they're finding is involved with cardiovascular disease. And all the different factors that are involved with creating heart stuff that they knew historically. You know, like having diabetes. How many of you know someone with diabetes? Risk for heart disease right there. How many of you know someone who has hyperglycemia? Too much blood, like sugar in the blood. Yep, same thing. How many of you know some hyperlipidemia? Too much fat in the blood. I know, it's not as fancy of a term, right? But let me say it differently. How many of you know someone who has a problem with fat intake? Yeah, cool, same thing. Ambient pollution. How many of you know people who have pollution in their environment? I'll give you a hint. All of your hands get to go up because you live on Earth. Yeah, cool. Insulin resistance, we already covered diabetes, and mental stress. Now, this might seem crazy. I know, because we're in Ohio, which means we're all fine. Everyone's fine. We're living the dream. But for those other people, could you see how maybe there's some mental stress? These are all factors that actually decrease your heart's variability, its ability to adapt in the moment. Said differently, all of these affect that autonomic nerve system's ability to regulate your heart. Said even more simply, stress. Stress is a big piece that impacts the health of your heart. Because when there is all of this stress, it affects the nerves that run your heart, which slow its ability to adapt in the moment. And so then there's that one moment that you go out and you go to shovel a driveway, right? You know how many people in the winter have heart attacks while shoveling their driveway. It's because they're shoveling and your heart, when you're moving the freaking snow, is supposed to really crank up blood flow for a moment. But the heart couldn't keep up. And so the person go down. Does this make sense? Yes. It's about adaptability. This all came from PubMed. You know, just stuff from Harvard. More stuff from Harvard over here. Ultimately, heart rate variability is measured really easily. Everyone breathe in. Cool, everyone breathe out. If someone had a measurement on you, as you breathed in, they would measure how much your heart rate increased as you breathed in. And as you breathe out, they would measure how much it decreases as you breathe out. Why on earth this? Because when you breathe out, that's your heart's one vacation. You know it's always working, right? When you're asleep, guess what's working? Your heart. When you're awake, guess what's working? Your heart. It's kind of a useful organ. I recommend it. But when you breathe in, that autonomic system inside of you that turns on the stress response for a moment to help increase the blood pressure, increase the heart rate, increase blood flow. As you breathe out, it turns on the relaxation system, giving the heart a moment to chill. The greater the variability on this, they say that people who have a higher heart rate variability have greater cardiovascular fitness and are more resilient to stress. See, the more your heart responds this way, the more you find you actually handle stress better. How many of you have been in a room with, like, I know it's been a while, but been in a room with a lot of people? One weird thing happens. Some people in the room get really stressed by it. Other people are totally cool and it's fine. Okay, said differently. How many of you have been on social media during the past year? And one thing gets posted, and some people are like, ah! And other people are like, this might as well happen. It's not the thing itself, it's how your body responds to the thing. So, the healthier this system is, and denial is a whole other conversation. We won't go into that one. But the healthier this system is, the more you can adapt and go, okay, I can handle this. We can move with this. This won't kill me. I will find a way. The weaker this system is, low heart rate variability is increased with the risk of death and cardiovascular disease, as well as depression and anxiety. Oh my gosh, so wait, the harder time your heart has to keep up with stress, the more you feel anxiety and depression? Wait a minute. I thought depression and anxiety were all in my head. I thought they were attitude. Nope. Not. It's actually a sign of your heart. You know, do you have the heart to handle what's happening? There's a reason for those sayings. Yeah. This is looking at one of the ways of measuring it. You know, so over here we have someone's pulse. You notice how it's not just a metronome. It's all kind of wiggly. That's supposed to be wiggly. That's what an actual human pulse is supposed to look like. Not just, but like all over. And that's okay. And over here, there's more stressful, and down there, okay, there's more recovery time. You'll notice because there's a lot more wiggliness on it. One of the ways we measure it, this is one of the ways we measure it in our office, is actually this handy little grid that then takes your particular heart rate variability and measures it on a grid. Is it your autonomic system stuck more in the exhaustion side, meaning it's so relaxed it can't get up? Is it stuck, that's called parasympathetic. Is it stuck on the sympathetic side, meaning all it can do is just like constantly fire stress, and so it actually can't recover. It's always just the same rhythm. Does it have enough energy? Is that part of your nervous system actually running with enough energy to even do its job? That's the vertical aspect of it. The little white dot is a person, where they are. Now, that green little square up in the top is where you're called healthy. Healthy means you can adapt, you can flex, you can flow. Your heart is healthy, your stress is healthy. Even when challenges happen, you're like, I got this. With that little dot being way off into the stress side and down to the point that there's not enough energy to even function, would you call that a healthy or unhealthy person? I just told you the answer. That is how unhealthy shows up. Why does that matter? People are like, well, okay, if my heart's not working well, maybe I should exercise more to make it fit. When your heart rate variability is off, when you exercise, it actually makes it worse. This is why I want to throw out that idea, oh, heart, I should just do cardio. Not with this. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, I know we're going a little into the weeds, but work with me here. This is one of the things that not many people knew about. Does that make sense? Everyone already was like, oh yeah, heart, you do cardio, it gets better, everything should be fine. But this is where they're actually realizing the biggest challenge to what's happening with people's heart is actually the way stress is impacting your body. It's not the heart itself, but it's the way your body's handling stress that determines how healthy your heart is. And the better your body can handle stress, the more it can have a healthy heart. If your body can't handle stress, do you think exercise is a stressor or a relaxant? It's a stressor. Stress doesn't have to mean bad, it's just something that's asking you to work harder. And if the part of you that works cannot work harder, it's already on exhaustion mode. If you push, it's going to break. It's the difference between when you have a friend and they need a swift kick in the butt to get off their butt, or when they actually need a hug. Different tools for different times. You got a hand? I hope you have two of them, actually. That would be really awkward. Yeah. Quick question before we go on.
Yeah, about that. So are you saying to reduce the stress, don't exercise?
Well, I'm going to get to all of that. I'm going to...
the endothelial cell, like you want your vascular system to be strong, and exercise helps that, not just...
Understood. And if the heart's linked to the whole cardiovascular system, and if your body's in a state that it can't adapt to new stressors, and you add exercise to it, you heard of strokes? The blood vessels themselves break down because the body's not recovering to repair them properly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's why this is why we actually measure. And this is why there's a lot of apps out there you can use these days that actually measure your heart rate variability. Athletes are using them to know when it's time for the next workout, when their body's recovered enough for it. That's also why when folks come to our office, we measure this to see what health they're coming from. Because sometimes someone's living a push it balls to the wall kind of lifestyle. but they're writing checks their body can't cash. Uh-huh. Yeah, I see you. This is why it comes first with going, are you healthy? We have this idea that healthy choices make healthy people, but we have it backwards. And I'll get into some of the research on that in a moment. But they actually have shown it's the opposite. The healthier you are, specifically the healthier your nerve system is, the better choices you make. Because the system that runs stress sends better signals to the brain, so you actually have options that are better for you. But when you're in a place of overwhelm, when you're in a state your system cannot adapt to what's happening, there's a reason that when you have low heart rate variability, your body naturally doesn't want to exercise for this reason. It's trying to slow down. It's trying to say, hey, take some stuff off my plate. There's a reflex that happens. Have many of you ever experienced this, where you begin to just subconsciously downsize your life? Let me say it differently. You start cutting things out. You start cutting people out. You start shrinking your world. You start quarantining. Yeah, that kind of thing. When our health is not able to handle what's happening, there's an intrinsic wisdom in us that goes, chill out. But so often we overpower it with this 2% of our brain. You know, the willpower part. That goes, my will be done. And then we wonder why things break. There's a better option. I'm going to give you some choices with that, fortunately. Because I'm not going to say you should live under a rock the rest of your life. That's dumb. Deeply dumb. But we got to have some compassion for how there's a time to actually chill out. There's a time that our body actually is sending us all of the signals saying, whoa, take it easy, man. Because if you keep pushing, you're going to get somewhere you don't want to go. You know, like being one of those statistics of the 650,000 Americans a year who drop dead from heart stuff. Highly overrated. This is a moment of really getting to know this autonomic system we were mentioning before. This autonomic nerve system, which is what's running our heart. This autonomic nerve system that runs how we handle stress. This autonomic system, the operating system that runs our body, lives in our back. It does not live in our brain. It lives in our back. This little thing here, this is looking at someone from the side, but without all the parts attached. Do you see the brain, the squiggly gray bit on top?
Yes.
Let me know, because if you don't, I'm going to get a pointer. Okay, cool. Do you see the weird spiral, like little curvy thing below it?
Yes.
That's a spine. We good?
Good.
Cool. Do you see all the lines coming off of it? Going to all these different organs? Those are nerves. Do you notice that all the nerves going to your organs come out of your back and not out of your head? Yeah. People tell me, I don't get how your spine affects your organs. Matt, it's anatomy. That's how we're built. 2% of our nerve system is the thing in our head. You know, our brain, the part we think with, the part we focus with, the part we create new dreams with, the part we create an outcome for our life and the impact we want our being on earth to have on other people, you know? The cool part? Everything else is run by the stuff in our body, in it, physically. The ones that run the heart, well, you'll notice that you see the organs on both sides. Why is it the same organs on both sides? Because each one of them has times they need to be able to do stress and do relaxation. When our system is in relaxation mode, you'll notice the heart rate slows down and it also constricts the airways, meaning it makes breath go out. In addition to, it actually makes your intestines work and your stomach work so you can eat the food that you're about to have. On the flip side, when we are in stress mode, it increases the heart rate. Thank you. It also increases, it actually relaxes the lungs so they can let air in. See, stress mode isn't always bad. We need it. Hell, I mean, when it comes to sex, you need both of these to work at the same time. Does anyone else out there like sex? I'm just saying, you need both of those things to work. If not, we gotta talk. All of these parts work together. That's what I'm just saying. You know, it's not like one is better. People are like, I should only relax. If you only relax, your system will actually fall apart. We got to make sure it all works in its proper balance. And not just because it affects the heart, but also because this same thing, the heart, affects your mood. There's multiple studies from different psychiatric journals about how what's going on with the heart affects depression, how the heart, is showing up more in psychiatry as an important thing. There's even realizing that people with depression and anxiety, even though they look overall healthy, they need to start looking at heart rate variability to see, oh my God, are they actually predisposed to different cardiac things? People talk about a broken heart. It's a very literal thing. And so if you have small children in the audience, you probably cover their faces for this one bit, because this is the one place where your heart and your head agree. Feels like crap. So what do you do about it? First is knowing what throws it off. And I've mentioned this, stress. But what is stress? We all think, oh, it's just mental. No, stress is physical. How many of you have been sitting in a chair? Congratulations, that is physical stress. How many of you have been spending more time sitting in the chair over the past year? That is a major physical stress, worse for you than smoking. Straight up, just Google it. It has so much negative impact on your body. We are designed to be in motion. Not always exercise, pushing hard, but at least getting up and moving. So, physical stuff. Chemical stuff. How many of you have ever eaten food that wasn't great? Cool. How many of you have ever taken a medication? How many of you ever put something in your body that wasn't a medication, but you wanted it to change how you thought? Drugs. Chemicals. How many of you have ever actually just been behind a car and you smelt all the weird stuff coming out of their tailpipe? Chemical stress. All of this affects our heart rate variability because it affects that autonomic system that runs our body, that lives in our spine. Last bit, emotional social stress. Just put up your hands. In fact, 85% of the stuff that impacts our health of these three stressors is the emotional social one. People tell me all the time, oh no, I just slept wrong. It was just my pillow. You use the same pillow every night. What were you sleeping on that night? What was on your mind that now ended up in your spine? Different conversation. So these are the things that happen. Now, our body is smart, right? It's wise. It's designed to help us handle stress. In fact, according to Gray's Anatomy, one of the big medical textbooks, they say the function, the whole purpose of your brain and that nerve system is to control and coordinate every function in you and then help it adapt to the environment. What's that mean? Handle stress. Because when you're healthy, you get stronger from stress. When you're healthy, challenges happen and you're like, awesome, I will learn from this. When you're not is when things break down. And what makes it not? Overwhelm. How many of you have ever been overwhelmed? If your hand's not up, you're a liar, just so you know. Or in denial, which is even more dangerous. Because if you don't know something's wrong, you can't change it, right? If you haven't seen the light going off on your dashboard saying check engine for like years, because it was always right behind the steering wheel for you. It was lined up that way, you just couldn't see it. You're in a lot of danger. This was just like the first 6 months of last year. I decided to stop adding to it after that. Is that fair?
Yeah.
At that point, I was like, forget it. So what happens when there's more stress than we can process? Our body becomes a stress amplifier. The stress begins to accumulate in different parts of us, whether it's physical stress, whether it's chemical stress, whether it's mental emotional stress. It begins to build up in the brain and the body brain, that part in the autonomics. It builds up in the muscles and the organs, so we tighten. And it builds up in your spine, in the structure itself. But we all know this, right? Because when you are overwhelmed by stress, do you think differently?
Yes.
Yes. When you're overwhelmed by stress, do you tighten up?
Yep.
Yes. When you're overwhelmed by stress, does your posture become more of a C shape?
Yes.
Yes. See, so this is nothing new. Thank you. The weird bit about all this is that from this place, that nerve system becomes more reactive. What does that mean? It gets stressed more easily. How many of you know the term self-fulfilling prophecy? That's what happens. Your body begins to become a stress amplifier, meaning you used to be able to handle a lot, but at this point, it starts to build up and build up and build up until eventually you're just not much fun to be around, and you don't enjoy being around you either. Anyone else had that experience? Yep. With that, it's because that autonomic system, remember the brain in our back, is literally like a set of guitar strings. When different stress happens, it literally vibrates. It moves in different ways that send different signals to every part of us. Stress strums the strings and sends different signals. Now, On the left is a healthy one of those spinal cords. On the right is one that's, shall we say, a little stretched tight. Can you see the difference? Can you see how when the same stressor happens to either of them, they're going to respond differently? The one that's a lot tighter is not going to respond as healthy and happy, FYI. Now, you don't all have MRIs where you're looking at your insides on a day-by-day basis to see what's different, right? If you do, you have different hobbies than me. However, we do have a posture, and this lets us know what's up. See, when we're actually well balanced in the middle, that system inside of us is sending happy signals and is responding well to life. We are more adaptable. When it goes to that one on the right here, that is someone who is vigilant. That is someone whose nervous system is constantly braced, and they're always almost looking for a reason to fight and defend. You know, people talk about vigilance. It's like that, it makes you a slave to fear. Your system's always looking for what to protect against. It's always seeking an enemy. Even when your mind isn't, your body is at that point. Do you think that's going to throw off your stress levels?
Yes.
Just a little bit. One on the other side is even more dangerous when it goes to heart function. Why? You know, when you just finally get built up and just breaking down, you're like, I just can't. Every inch the head goes forward from midline increases your risk of death from heart and lung disease. Your posture is a huge indicator when it comes to your overall heart health. So when you see people who are sitting like this all the time, do everything to the best of your ability to help them find what upright is like. Is that fair? Cool. On top of that, we mentioned before, why does stress affect your brain? We all know that we have multiple parts in our brain, right? We have part of us that's wise and loving and empathic, right? Please tell me you have that. If not, I'll tell you why. We also have a part that's a reptile, meaning it runs our body, and it's reactive. Stress builds up, it actively takes the blood from the frontal part, our Einstein, sends it to our iguana, the brainstem. Here's the challenge. When it does this, that frontal lobe is the organ of awareness. If it doesn't have enough energy or nutrition, is it aware that it's not aware? No. That's why we're all fine. We're just fine. I'm living the dream. I am cause. I create my destiny. Cool. Great story. Let's look at the wire. That's why I say going beyond just the symptoms and beyond what you think. In fact, when it comes to a heart challenge, how many of you want the first symptom of a heart challenge? Do you know what the first symptom of a heart challenge can be? Heart attack. No. So let's actually start taking stress more seriously. It shows up in a lot more ways, but I'm not going to beat those into you because you get it at this point, right? Let's go into the happier parts. What do we do about this? Oh my gosh! Are we all doomed? No. No. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Anyone ever seen Mystery Science Theater 3000? Cool. You should really just relax. How do you do this? Well, let's start with stuff. Before you shove food in your face, let's do a few practical things, shall we? Everyone, take a deep breath and sit up straight. Congratulations, you just did the first thing that actually helps things start turning around. Remember what we mentioned before, breath is part of what involves our heart's regulation. Well, I'm going to show you a simple breathing exercise that can help to immediately start massaging your heart and start relaxing the nerves. And then when you do this, it can actually help get your body ready to be able to exercise and do other things. Or maybe just have a good day because it helps with your mood. You up for it?
Yes.
Cool. Now, if you have people to your left and right, this is going to get awkward. I'm going to show you what it is, and then you're going to find a way to do it without punching each other. Is that fair? Cool. So, you're going to be, no promises. I love it. It's going to be a fight club. You're going to be upright because, again, when the head goes forward, it puts pressure on your heart and lungs. It also throws off the nerves going to your body. No bueno. Upright. Arms are going to be out to the side. Why? Because it helps to create a lift in the upper chest, making even more room for the heart. Now, just because people are a little weird up there, you're going to turn one hand, only one. There's going to be a twist going through here. Does it matter which one? No, because you're going to do both. Now, from this position, breathe in to a count of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for a count of 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale for 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more time. 2, 3, 4, hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Reach your arms up, keeping that lovely weird little twist in them. You'll thank me later for this. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Guess what? Switch it. So whichever one you twist it, do the other way. You'll notice it has a different opening on the upper chest and shoulders. There's a reason we need that. That's where the nerves go to your heart. You're welcome. You know the drill. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2 more times. 2, 3, 4, hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One last. In 2, 3, 4, hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Overhead. 2, 3, 4, hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Shake it off without smacking someone near you. This breath exercise helps support heart rate variability, basically relaxing the autonomic nerve system on multiple levels. 1, that particular breath pattern, the inhale, remember, turns on the stress system. We need that, but in small bursts, which is why it's just 4 seconds for the inhale. It also gets you in the habit of not doing the long 20-minute inhale. It's just, how can you fully open quickly? Then being able to be in that hold, in that pause, helps with the gear change from the stress system to the ease system. It allows that space for transition. And the exhale being lengthy, that 8 count really spends more time on turning on the recovery system. The arms being out and open supports with the upright posture because we spend so much time like this. It's helping retrain your shoulders and scapula into an open position. However, if you just do both at once, you tend to compensate through your mid-back. Doing it this way gets it really into that upper shoulder area. Make sense?
Yes.
Why is that also useful? This upper shoulder area, right here at the first and second thoracic vertebra, are where the nerves go directly to your heart. Which is why when the head goes forward, thank you, is no bueno. Bonus points. When you're doing that, you can also focus on breathing in positive experiences because it is an emotional organ. Focusing as you breathe in on actually just focusing on what you're grateful for, the good things that have happened in your life, or the good things you see coming. And as you breathe out, exhaling like you're actually offering that to other people. Why is that? The heart is also an organ of connection. If I had more time, I would really geek out, but the fun capsule summary, when you're within 6 to 8 feet of another person, if you measure that person's brain activity, they'll find your heart rate. Your heart influences someone else's mind. So use it for good, okay? You literally influence the room when you walk into it. This is a way you can start consciously tuning the instrument to make a positive impact. Second step, after you breathe, sleep. Maybe not right now, because we got to put food in. But seriously, everyone's talking about, oh, I've got to wake up. It's like, no, first go to sleep. Why? You notice when we have the change in time, like the daylight savings, where we all start complaining, because it's the one that's coming up where we lose an hour? Heart attacks increase 24% on that day. Literally, we need sleep. And we do not value sleep as a culture here in America. We are productivity over everything. Well, let me give you a hint. You'll be more productive alive than dead. Is that fair? Cool. How much sleep is enough sleep? Between 7.5 to 9 hours. You're like, I don't have time for that. Make time. Seriously. Why sleep? It's in 90-minute cycles. And that's why, trying to just go into them some weird, like, what about, like 6.5 hours? I'm like, you're going to feel a little tired in that. 7.5 to 9 hours is optimal for proper heart health as well as proper emotional regulation, because by this point you get how they're connected. So sleep, it's good for you. Next step, eat. And this is one of those, we all have heard a lot of things about what you're supposed to eat for heart health. And then you've noticed there's a lot of conflicting information in that, right? Has anyone else noticed that? There's a reason. And that's because we focused on all the mechanics, but not actually the magic that makes it work. The key to this, I'm going to share a quick story. I know they would love for me to be quiet soon, but I got excited, and they told me at the front to talk longer so the kitchen could keep up. So you unfortunately got that side. They did. They actually did. It's true.
All right.
It's true. I got permission.
All right, kids, he's got permission.
Sorry.
Go on. All right.
You will get your food, though. And this comes out of a book by one of my mentors and the guy who developed the kind of chiropractic we do. His name's Dr. Donnie Epstein. You know, the dog quote from earlier? This book, Healing Myths, Healing Magic. He's going about the different beliefs we have about healing that get in its way. There's beliefs that actually come down through the medical community that get in the way of our healing. Beliefs that go down through our society that get in the way of our healing. Beliefs that come down through our religion that get in the way of our healing. And then a lot of the New Age myths that emerged by people rebelling and trying to find their own way that also get in the way of our healing. This one was looking at a study that happened, remember the Framingham study back in the 70s when they were looking at large cohort studies of heart health stuff? You probably don't, because I'm the geek who studies that kind of thing. However, there was a study done of different cohorts, different communities, finding where is the highest level of heart health. What was the community in America that had the greatest level of heart health? And they found it, little town in New Jersey. I forget the name of the town. Again, if I pull up the book, I could find it again. But the moral of the story is they went there expecting to find a bunch of vegan yogis. Do you know what they found? A bunch of overweight, carnivorous Italians. And they were a little bewildered. But then they looked at the patterns, and it was a social pattern. It was a very tightly knit family community where every Sunday the family would all come together. Even if they didn't like each other, they'd come together and they'd share a meal and they would talk. They would all come together in community. See, it's not, the food we eat is important, but what's eating us while we eat is even more important. And making sure that we actually take the time and the space to eat consciously with the people who we love. And even if we're currently in a place we can't be near them, getting on a freaking Zoom and actually have a Zoom happy hour with friends. Because that act of being away from the screen and the distractions, we live in such a distracted, mentally distracted world. When we are mentally distracted, the stress side of that autonomic system fires harder. So it's actually making the time to create space. To actually be with the food and be with the people. Which is why I'm so grateful that you've all come here together. So we can actually take this time to be together. Because it's so vital for our health. It's one of the most important things for your heart. It's not just a pump. Last bit, this is a little bit on supplements because most people don't know some of these. 3 biggest things to actually come to help with the heart. It's called omega-3s, CoQ10, and alpha-lipoic acid. What do these 3 things have in common? They are central nerve system, brain, food, and antioxidants that help it handle stress. And all the research shows that these 3 things help people with not only with their cardiovascular, but also with their mood and their resilience to stress. Hugely important. I can geek out with the details forever with you. If you want more, email me. However, those 3 little things make a really big impact. Beyond that, stop trying to balance your life. Really. Because we keep trying to seek out balance. But the funny thing, balance is a state where there's no energy. Homeostasis, this idea that we get to this perfect balance, is actually the place where everything falls apart. In thermodynamics, they call it maximum entropy. What's that mean? Total breakdown. See, it's not about balance in our health, getting everything balanced out, getting all the numbers perfect, being able to get everything balanced. No. It's about being able to surf the waves of change. It's being able to be adaptable, being able to be flexible, being able to have a body and a brain that can dance with life. That when life throws you curveballs, you can roll with it, you can catch it, you can duck it, you can find whatever option you have, instead of just getting hit with it. Unless you really need that idea. I mean, it's always an option. I mean, some of us have heads that are magnets for things. I do too. Which is why the style of chiropractic we do is so much of one of the things we also offer for you as an option. Because ultimately, so much of what happens on the nerves themselves comes from how the spine is able to move. See, 90% of what happens in your brain starts from how your back moves. But we already know this because when you look at people's body language, you can tell how they're thinking, what they're feeling. And so how do you work with the spine in a way that actually affects the brain? How do you actually adjust the brain? How do you adjust the heart? How do you adjust not just the meat puppet, but actually the magic that runs your whole life? That's what that nerve system is, and that's why we adjust differently with our office. Because if the nerve system is stuck, it's hard to actually heal, relax, grow, or enjoy life. You can be doing all the right physical things, but the thing inside of you is stuck, and so you still feel miserable. How many of you know someone who's totally fit, but a real pain in the butt to be around? Yeah, it's not just about the meat. How many of you know someone who's vigilant about eating all the right things, but they're really sick? And they're sick because they're next to impossible to be around. They're inflexible in every other part of their lives. It's not about the stuff, but really about the system that organizes it. And so that's where my job is simply to actually locate, assess for, and when necessary, to adjust in areas that actually help to set that part of you free. And then help it better adapt to this thing called life. Why? Have you noticed life's probably not going to get less stressful, but just different stressful? Yeah, so waiting for it to be perfectly balanced, good luck with that. Instead, how do we get healthy? That's why in our office we measure what's going on in your brain. That's why we look at the adaptability of a healthy brain and also looking to see if it's an unhealthy one. Because if the brain itself is unhealthy, it will keep sending the wrong signals to your body. And it will keep over-responding or under-responding to stress and challenge in life. Does that make sense? This is why we also measure, we have a different way of measuring that heart rate variability as well, to make sure that your whole body is adaptable, flexible, the system that runs your physical body, your emotions, and also sends 90% of the input to your mind, is sending happy, healthy input instead of all over the shop. And that's also where we measure what's going on with your structure. Because you could have the most amazing nerves, but if your body's stuck in this place, your body's going to send signals to your brain saying nothing's good. We want to look comprehensively to make sure that you're a whole healthy human. Side effects of that include symptoms that seem unrelated to the back resolve. You know, like people telling you how their anxiety changes, or they're off heart medication, or how they're digesting food better, or they actually like their parents more. Those are just the tip of the iceberg. The approach itself is called network spinal. Why? Because you're a whole integrated network. You're not just a bunch of bones, you're a whole person with physical, chemical, social stuff going on, and whose health is bigger than just, I want this symptom to go, but realizing, man, this symptom is a wake-up call to my life. How do I actually get the message so I don't need the messenger? How do I upgrade how my body works so I outgrow the problem? Because any symptom you have is simply secondary to the level of health that you have. How do you get healthier? Going with what Carrie mentioned before, you know, instead of just perpetuating the conversation of how do I avoid the problem, how do you outgrow the problem? And so the kind of work we do, there's multiple different effects that happen from it depending on your health and where you're at. We always modify it based on you. So there's no cookie cutter approach in my office. Everyone comes in, we do an analysis on everyone to see where you're at, where you want to go. And whatever is going on, we find how we're going to meet you each day, every day, as we go forward. Because each day you come to me, I hope you're a different person. If you're not, that's when we have those awkward conversations at the table. It's one of the most researched things in chiropractic. This is just one of the studies, which had 2,818 people, you know, a small group of folks. And the results from it went beyond anything they'd seen anywhere else in alternative and complementary medicine. including every other form of chiropractic. And the biggest impacts were not just people's physical health improved. It was not just that people's mental health improved. It was also that their ability to handle stress improved and their ability to enjoy life improved. And double that of people rigorously engaged in every different form of healthy lifestyle choice. Double. And after between 6 to 9 months of care, they started naturally taking on healthy lifestyle choices. Just not as many, because they didn't need to do all of them. They just needed to do the ones that worked for them. And at that point, they got 3 times the benefits of people who were working their butt off. So said differently, if you don't want to do anything healthy for yourself, if you come to our office, you'll still do better than most of your friends. However, I'm going to warn you in advance. The folks who you've been judging about eating tree bark and doing yoga, you might, after 6 to 9 months of care, start naturally going, you know, that's pretty good bark. Because when you become healthier, you make healthier choices. And yeah, there's plenty of studies just involving that one thing we were talking about, heart rate variability. But also from people in my office. I can geek on forever. There's layers, as I mentioned before. There's levels to things. We can take you as far as you want to go. It just depends on you. But at the end of the day, it comes down to health. Let us remember that health is not a state of rotting slower than our friends. Let us remember that health is not isolating ourselves from anything that could possibly throw off our world. But that health is a state of physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. There is a time and a place for a trauma management system. As said, if my head is cut off, I want them to put it back on. And then I'm going to want to find out why I got in a place that let my head come off in the first place and start upgrading my physical, mental, and social health so that that never happens again. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, it's still, how do I move forward from here? Being alive is a good starting point. Now let's start living. So with that, thank you so much for taking this time to learn some stuff with us today. The pizza has been coming out, which is good, and I hope it's delicious. These guys are an example. Studio 35 is a case study in adaptability. You know, when the pandemic hit, one of the first things they started doing was upgrading their kitchen and making some changes on the inside so they could have a higher quality product to be able to share with people. You know, they took the opportunity, they took the challenge from Corona and said, bring it.